This is 2OF Entertainment.
Hi, it's Kevin Lobates here, and today I want to talk about the distinction between native crypto assets and what I guess we can call instantiated crypto assets on blockchains. And this video was triggered by someone making a comment on one of my posts a while back in which they mentioned that Cardano NFTs are better because they're actually in your wallet. Now, going and investigating Cardano, it turns out that no, your NFTs are not in your wallet. In fact, talking about things being in your wallet in a blockchain system doesn't really make much sense. A wallet is a collection of private and public keys corresponding to blockchain addresses, and a blockchain functions sort of like a ledger, and assets are registered against your blockchain addresses. So nothing can really be in your wallet. It's a bit of a misnomer. However, I guess for convenience sake, it helps to talk about owning things in your wallet and transferring things, even if the underlying mechanism doesn't correspond to that analogy at all. Anyway, that's a bit of a sidetrack. I was going to talk about native crypto assets versus instantiated ones. And I think for this, Ethereum is probably the best example. On the Ethereum blockchain, you have one native crypto asset, and that is Ether. And then you have lots and lots and lots of instantiated assets, and they are instantiated through smart contracts. And there is a distinction between these two in that the native crypto asset is actually hard-coded. Well, not hard-coded because it is allowed to be changed if everybody agrees that the protocol should change, but it is coded into the base blockchain protocol. It's handled by the nodes who are following the defined protocol for how the blockchain works, and part of that protocol includes the creation of this native crypto asset. Whereas instantiated ones are brought into existence kind of one layer higher. It's smart contracts running on the Ethereum blockchain that create them. And you can see this distinction because when you look at how you transfer Ether, there are these functions called send, and you use the send function to transfer Ether from your address to somebody else's. Whereas if you're trying to transfer your ownership of an NFT or some ERC20 fungible token, you're going to be calling functions within a smart contract, and they are typically called transfer. Now, they could have called them send to, but they used a different word, even though it has a very similar meaning, to distinguish between the fact that you send Ether, but you transfer DAI. I hope that kind of gives you a base understanding of what the difference between native crypto assets and instantiated ones is. And when you go and look at blockchains such as Cardano or perhaps Waves, you'll find that they've implemented a base level protocol for handling NFTs too. So on Cardano, if you want to create an NFT, you don't have to deploy a smart contract. NFTs are already baked into the base protocol. Now, this has some advantages and it also has some disadvantages. The advantages are that most NFT projects out there are pretty much the same. They want to do pretty much the same stuff. And if they're all using the same protocol for creating these NFTs and transferring them, then you don't need to go and check every single smart contract individually just to check that there's not something odd or dodgy going on, because lots and lots of eyes have looked at the base protocol. There are lots of projects already out there that are using the base protocol for NFTs, and as a result, you've got more of a sense of safety and reliability. So that's a good thing, and it's something that Ethereum suffers from, in that there are plenty of dodgy contracts out there, and some of them are even pretty high profile. However, the flip side of using a base protocol for your assets using native NFTs rather than having instantiated ones is that you lose a lot of flexibility. And so if you take, for example, the Authorverse NFT project that me and Richard Piacentini have been working on for the last 3 months, we couldn't have implemented that on Cardano because we wouldn't have had the opportunity to change some of the ways in which the NFT works and to pull our trick, which was to effectively make it look like a token is registered against every single address. And in the blockchain world, what it looks like is what it is. So we couldn't have pulled that off on Cardano. So there you can see some advantages of native crypto assets versus some of the disadvantages. And in particular in Ethereum, one of the problems is that Ether was dreamt up right at the beginning of the project, way before all sorts of smart contract standards such as ERC20 came into existence. And as a result, the way that Ether behaves is different to the way that ERC20 tokens behave, even though from a practical point of view they should be the same. Ether just couldn't look into the future and say, well, actually, I'd like to be an ERC20 token and have all the expected interfaces that those tokens do. And as a result, if you're a smart contract programmer and you want to handle ERC20 tokens like DAI or Aave or whatever, and you want to handle Ether, you have to write all your code twice. Once to handle the ERC20 tokens and once to handle the native crypto asset Ether. Now, a solution was actually come up for this problem, which is to wrap Ether, which is to take Ether and lock it in a contract and issue an ERC20 token in return. And that token is backed one-to-one by the native crypto asset. And now you have a token that represents Ether, but behaves like an ERC20 token. And that makes life a lot easier for programmers. And this is why you sometimes see projects out there where before you can interact with the contract, you have to convert your ETH into wrapped ETH. Unfortunately, that costs you some gas. And then at the end, if you've made a profit or if you haven't lost all your wrapped Ether tokens, you can trade them back in for the native ETH and then go and cash it out at a crypto exchange if you want to, or go off and do something else on the blockchain. So there again is one of the problems of having a native crypto asset rather than the flexibility of using smart contracts in order to create your tokens. And I think at a final level, it's worth talking a bit about what a token actually is, because I've noticed again that some people have a very strange, half-baked idea of what tokens on a blockchain actually are. And the thing is, they're not like poker chips in a casino. Of course, they don't have a physical existence because they're in a blockchain. But what's more, there's not a particular part of the code that you can point at and say, that's the token. Tokens are created on a ledger. There's a data structure in the blockchain that is occasionally updated when somebody transfers a balance from one place to another. And you can look at that as a kind of list of owners and assets, or as is always the case with ledgers, you can register, instead of registering the asset against the owner, you can register the owner against the asset. Now, fundamentally speaking, those two are the same, except that there are some search efficiencies involved in using one rather than the other. But in practice, from what I can tell, the decision is made based on the concept surrounding the assets that's being represented. So, for example, if you look at a bank, presumably, although I'm not sure it's always the case, the idea is that the customer is the important thing, and the money that they own should therefore be registered against them as the owner. So the first column should be the owners and the second column should be the balances. Whereas if you look at something like a land registry, the important thing there is the land asset. So typically in land registries, I believe, you will register the owner against the land, i.e. the first column in the list of the ledger will be the identifiers for the land parcels, and the second column will contain the identities of the owners of those parcels. And if you look at NFTs in Ethereum, that's typically the way that they are registered. The asset is seen as important, so the first column is the token ID, and the owner, which is somebody who can change as the NFT is transferred from person to person, is registered against that in the second column. So I think I've covered quite a few things here. I'll probably revisit some of these topics again because I think they're worth digging into a bit deeper and getting a bit more of an understanding of what's going on. But in conclusion, no, in Cardano, your NFTs are not in your wallet. However, in Cardano, the NFT is different to the NFT on Ethereum, and that is because in Cardano they have baked it in at the protocol level and made NFTs native crypto assets, whereas on Ethereum everything is pretty much instantiated in smart contracts, i.e. one level higher up, and the only thing on Ethereum that is a native crypto asset is Ether, the currency that is used to pay for gas. So that's today's video. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you all in the next video soon. Bye for now.